From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life, and life not getting in the way of ranking Star Wars. I'm Ken Knapsack.
I'm Joseph Heavy-Sigh Scrimshaw. I like the way you added that too. And the ultimate adventure, life itself.
Welcome to the working week, kids. We record these episodes of Monday morning before we even go live. Release them later in the week, so we try to, pretend that we're having it's hump day. We're halfway through the week, kids. We're not. We're just starting. And that's where we're going to go. So we are launching a new series here in Star Wars Ranked that's going to take us up to the Mandalorian and Grogu, which is kind of crazy. When I put it down on a calendar, laid a little tracing paper over it, Joseph, I realized, time moves pretty fast. We are starting a series here in Star Wars Ranked, our favorite scenes in blank. We've had a lot of fun going through all the movies with our favorite moments, our favorite lines, favorite characters, but we are going to our favorite scenes. The definition of scenes, we'll blur the edges when we need to, but we are going through every film up until the release of Mandalorian and Grogu, Joseph, and this presents a wonderful challenge, yes?
It does. It's delightful. One of the reasons that I was really interested in doing this is because a scene is so distinct, and if you listen to any writers, directors, film critics talk about what a scene is like a mini little film onto itself, and there are lots of opinions about what makes a good scene or not. And so I think there's a lot of fun to talk about, what makes a good scene to us in terms of, does it match some of the writing advice that a scene should only be about one thing and there should be a conflict. And unless it's a specific kind of scene, it's not a conflict that should be resolved. And then Star Wars, because it is made of so many different moving pieces and so many different styles of storytelling, have lots of different kinds of scenes, and plenty of documentaries where you can hear George talk about this is the figure it out scene where they all have a meeting and they figure out the plan. It's, in a lot of movies, but Star Wars has a lot of them. And then there's just the action scenes and how much is being communicated about character and story in an action scene. So I think scenes is really fascinating overall. And I thought Phantom Menace was particularly fascinating because when I thought about talking about scenes for every film, in my head, because of my generational bias, I was like, of course we'll start with A New Hope. And I can rattle off those scenes instantly. And then you had the wonderful suggestion of you know what? Let's start with Phantom Menace. And I was like, no problem. And then I was like, wait. All of my favorite things in the Phantom Menace are lines, ideas, moments. But thinking about it as scenes was entirely different.
Yeah, right there with you. A fun challenge indeed that we did to ourselves over a nice lunch. And I think, yes, in terms of starting with episode 1, it was just me trying to be, I'm young, I'm hip, tucka, all the kids like to start with episode 1. But it's just thinking of the story in front of us. And and I think you probably went through the same thing here. We love sharing. This is like showing our work and showing our math on how we get to our choices. But Phantom Menace has been in my life since 1999, as yours, and the journey with it is well documented. Love this film, and it is one of my favorite films to just watch. If I'm in the mood for Star Wars, there's a good chance, maybe like a 34% chance, that this is the movie I play. I love watching. I sat down today with my little cue card here and couldn't remember one thing in the film. It's like, I don't know, pods, racing.
Did you, so you mean you just sort of you more feel the overall emotion and energy of the film, and then you're like, but what are specific scenes, isolated scenes?
Yeah. I was just trying to all right, what is, because I have some that, a lot of them, my choices are based on moments within those scenes. I might even label them with the moments, and we'll expand to the conversation around it. But I'll just, I put down the Gungans emerge into battle. Well, that's a moment. That's not a scene, and we got a lot of things to drop on it. So I was like, we got to cross that out. And then I just was like, I don't remember, even though I've lived with this film so much. And that's kind of number one. That's how it was competing competitively for Star Wars trivia against you and Alex Damon of I know nothing. But also just kind of the joy of being a Star Wars fan, where it is so in our blood. but it is also there's too many things to choose from sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think for me, it's partially the way that George constructed the Phantom Menace because he is so writer director. I know Ben Burt edited it, but I'm sure that George had some opinions, and I think Phantom Menace is like the most expensive indie auteur film ever
Mhm.
made. Which means George just
Mhm.
does what he wants, and he breaks lots and lots of storytelling rules, and sometimes it to great benefit, and sometimes it's a little wonky. And I think in particular, Phantom Menace, I had such a hard time of like, I know the beats I like, yeah, like individual shots or individual lines are like, well, a communication breakdown can only mean one thing. It's a classic line. Great. It's a banger. Like, is that one of
Mhm.
my favorite scenes? I love when
Mhm.
Darth Maul, gets the information back from the probe and takes off on his speeder, the Bloodfin, and disappears behind a cliff. And like, but is that a great scene? That was the kind of
Mm.
stuff that I was really, really going through.
Going through indeed. All right, we'll start diving in here. We work our way 10-1 as we always do here in Star Wars Ranked. Our favorite Star Wars scenes in the Phantom Menace all launch us so that Joseph can take us home there in the end. And I'm going to dive right in, Joseph, to again a moment that has I think a great action sequence around it. It is R2D2 saves the day, the escape from Naboo. Number one, this is
Mm.
a positive scene in my memory from the trailer, even though I think in the trailer I thought it was going to be something else different, like which is why as much as I love that trailer, there's always like, what movie? They cut that up in such a wonderfully weird way when I look back that I had so many incorrect predictions, which is great. Look, we love R2D2. He's very popular, and I can't think of a better way to introduce them. Now, for us sitting down in the theater, it was kind of a no brainer. Oh, here comes R2's entered the stage,
Hmm.
right? He's if it's an improv game, he's tagged in and he's gonna have a funny line. We know it. But I also want to see this from the perspective of other kids who maybe even Star Wars. Phantom Menace wasn't their first Star Wars, and they maybe watched a little VHS or something like that. But just like what a grand entrance in this tense sequence in which the humans, including the Jedi, can't really get out of there.
Hmm.
Then you have the reveal of all the droids. And by the way, part of the thing I love about this scene is also the pain I feel for the other droids who are
Hmm.
blown to bits, sent in sky, sent into space. And just it's R2 at his best, man. And then I take this scene all the way out to, what I think is kind of wonderfully awkward, even years later, of just like, what's this little droid's name? Well, it's R2D2. Like, clap. Yeah. This is how we should do it. This is how we should do it. It's R2D2. As our buddy Mark Ellis says, he is the true hero of the galaxy. A lot of things don't happen unless R2 is there. He
Hmm.
is the hero of heroes. And so I love that being carried out here. R2D2 saves the day, and our heroes get to escape Naboo.
Yes, there's a lot that I like about it. Yeah, and already like, oh, are we including within the scene of R2 rescues the day? Does that include Hey Boyos, where Jar Jar meets the droids and
Yeah.
establishes them? You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yes.
does that include where Panaka looks behind R2 for his name, which I've always enjoyed because it feels like when a parent you would write your name in your sweatshirt when you when you were a kid. So like, what's this kid's name? This one's JD, whatever. Um, very funny to me. But the actual heart, the scene where the astromech droids are sent to
Mm-hmm.
fix the ship,
Hyperdrive, yeah.
the
Hyperdrive, yeah.
hyperdrive. Yes, I think what I like about it is it encapsulates something that I was really feeling. Rewatching parts of Phantom Menace this morning is that Phantom Menace is often talked about is it's a movie that's more for kids. It is the happier film of the prequel series where the heroes think that they kind of had a victory even though Qui-Gon dies. This film is just laced with tragedy and sadness. And
Yeah.
it's a lot in the production design. There are lots of scenes that happen at twilight. There's not even ominous music, but bittersweet and sad music. There's a lot in the film, even when it is kind of like happy and bouncy. That's like, well, this is kind of awful. Um,
It's
and
kind
I
of
think
brutal.
and I think the droid scene is up there. I think part of it is this interesting tension that Lucas is determined to have a fun, bouncy adventure serial that kids can enjoy, Well, also his mind is so on like how do things fall apart. What are the sacrifices made for a victory? And Star Wars in particular, in general, but Phantom Menace in particular, wears its heart on its sleeve. It's a very caring film. Its main message is empathy and connection. Um,
Mhm.
and in this fun, bouncy moment where we meet our hero R2,
Yeah.
we go from all of the other droids, which we should care about, just being blasted into space like just nothing, like just meat.
Limbs.
Who cares? Just meat to sell how great R2 is, right? A- and within that same scene, we have a shot that's basically R2 looking at the camera and
Mm.
delivering a beep line almost directly at the camera, as if he is to say, I know, I'm R2D2.
Exactly. Just like
Like a cool James
absolutely.
Bond line, you know?
I mean, that should be the new James Bond. That should be the new James Bond. There's your casting right there. We're off and running. Number 10, R2 saves the day. Sir, you're first on the board, and number 9 for us.
My number 9, I'm going to a big one, and I think that it is one of the
Mm.
kinds of scenes that George Lucas would maybe describe as a figuring things out scene, because it definitely is a let's make a plan and move the plot forward. But within it, it's a very specific scene. It's isolated. It's in one location. It is characters speaking to one another and figuring things out, but it's also an incredibly important emotional scene, and that is the dinner at the Skywalker hut, the
Mm.
Skywalker living room, I guess.
Yeah.
As we've discussed before, they are slaves and they live in this kind of group slave housing. Their apartment is much bigger than mine. They have a nicer dinner table than my
Mhm.
wife and I do. Anyway, uh, there's so much that I love about this scene. It contains a lot of little beats that I like within it. And I think it is one that kind of plays with the rules of a scene should be about one thing. And there are many things going on there. There's Qui-Gon really, his first inkling of truly seeing who Anakin is, that he is
Mhm.
special and perceptive, and that he can do pod races at all. Uh, there there's tension where Padme's not too sure about this plan that Qui-Gon is making. There's tension that's like we're putting our fate in the hands of this boy, which I know she literally says later. But she's got the line of like, I'm sure we don't want to put your son at risk. So there is this like,
Mhm.
is that what we're doing here? We're racing a child in a game that Qui-Gon just said is very fast, very dangerous. And I think what
Yeah.
ties it together is not only Shmi saying, my fear doesn't matter, I
Mm.
can handle my fear. It's her saying that he is meant to do this, is what sort of ties all these conflicts together. There's the scene has a sort of sense of doom. There's no one to help who's friendly to the Republic. The scene starts with talking about, I can't believe there's slaves. Like, well, there's no Republic out here. It's got the great exchange about no one can kill a Jedi. I wish that were so. It's bittersweet and has a sort of foreboding sense of doom and death. And the thrust of the conversation is Anakin, it's amazing that you can pod race, but you're a kid. You might die doing
Mhm.
it. But it all gets tied together by Shmi saying, he was meant to help you, and of course Anakin, saying the
Mhm.
quote back to her that you say the main problem in the galaxy is that no one, and the main problem in the universe is that no one helps one another, um, which I would argue is sort of the thesis statement of the
Mhm.
Phantom Menace and a lot of Star Wars, that we are meant to help one another. And so all of this sort of a doom and fear coalesces into this plan where it's a dubious plan, practically, morally,
Mm.
but Shmi is sort of this emotional anchor saying it is meant to be, I think, bonds with Qui-Gon's emerging idea that this is a sort of this is a boy not only of power and intelligence, but of fate and destiny, and this sort of like we need to just let this play out and see where it goes.
This is truly a table setting scene.
Yep.
Almost dangerously close to wordplay. I apologize. This is absolutely one of the moments I think in all of Star Wars where we really slow down and zero in on what the big picture is. In a way that Rick Ollier is probably jealous that they were this smooth in just setting everything. You're right, and even to just think about the scene, I think it's remember for some of the big lines. A trailer line, "He can help you," he was meant to help you. The good old Anakin mom line, but also we got a great Jar Jar Qui-Gon tongue bit. All right, we got some comedy in there. We got all the things going on there because it's also revealing things. And when we talk about emotional canon here in ForceCenter, I think this might be the center of so much of the emotional canon that we love. Not just tracking Anakin's story. I think later on when Padme says they're still good in him, I think it begins here. It also speaks to how Shmi infused that kind of love for helping others into his heart, and how that got lost, and how that became what ends up happening to Anakin, as we know. But so much like you said, so much of Star Wars I think can come from this kind of scene, and them taking the time to do it in a absolutely whiz bang, I've gone too far George Lucas movie. Him knowing that not just, hey, I need the audience to know what's going on. I'm really focusing on the core of what Star Wars is here. I'm not even, it's not hyperbole for me. I think this is a scene dripping with emotional canon that I do think deserves its place here. So I think this is an excellent choice. And not for nothing, man. Shmi will come back on this list again, of course. But Shmi Skywalker, what you just described, I will not let my fear be in front of my child's own choices, my child's own desires to help, my child's desire to be themselves. Is a valuable trait in any parent. Is a valuable trait in it. Am I speaking a little too closely from experience? Yes. But I love the character of Shmi, and this is absolutely one of her best moments. Great scene, great choice.
It's also, greed gets talked about a lot, but this is also where she brings up like everything goes around in Tatooine because of the pod races. Everything circles around it, and the greed and the betting, and her specific line of "I die every time Watto makes you do it." Of like her fear is for her son's safety, but her dislike of it is this idea of Anakin as a pawn in greed when Watto makes him do it, but when Anakin wants to do it to help people, she has to not let her fear get in the way. It's a great distinction between being made to do something so somebody else can make money off of you versus taking a risk because you believe in yourself and you want to help someone else.
Indeed. Oh, right. Okay. You put some pressure on me here. I thought we were starting a little slow, but no, we're going big. And now I'm going to jug around, and this almost might seem like a joke pick, but it's not. It is a scene that I have, I have to choose it because even if I think I wouldn't put it on a top 10 list, that's not true because I stop and watch it every time. And it's also a scene that I think was famously made fun of. It's famously like, they're just talking about boring stuff here. And I just think that's incorrect. And when I think of Star Wars with Jedi and hero and big themes and wild characters, you can go to the whiz bang stuff. We can go to your great dinner scene we just talked about, or we can go into the heart of Oda Gunga with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi and sit before Boss Nass. I love the sequence of meeting Boss Nass. I love Brian Blessed at his unhinged best, just being this character. I love what they're talking about. And from just having, if I think of fun lines, again, we've done that before in Star Wars Rank, but if I think of, Misa no like the Naboo or Planet Core, all those things that we can kind of just have fun with as a Star Wars fan, they come from this scene. But I can also think of just when we talk about universal themes, emotional canon, and what this film is about. This scene got overlooked in 1999 and probably still gets overlooked. The stuff that Qui-Gon, but even the stuff that Obi-Wan's saying is just, I wish you could just take the themes of it, the purpose behind it, and just inject it into the brains of everyone in our own universe, in our own galaxy, of what happens to one will happen to you, symbiotic circle. big, giant, universal themes, big, important themes to the Star Wars story. And it's all right there, wrapped up in just the most bonkers, imaginative, wonderfully designed, over the top at times. I think Boss Nass is over the top, and that's why I love him. I just absolutely love everything he brings. And I think it was one of those things that when I first saw this thing, again, it was famously made fun of, I think, in a YouTube series about 12 years ago. It's held up as like, oh, snooze fest. I think that's just wrong. I think that's incorrect. And I think that's why this movie got overlooked by a generation. It was, and it's, again, wildly imaginative. I love Oda Gunga. And I love just walking around in it. And I love that we have this culture in full display. And we have this wonderful, just big, vibrant, kind of unhinged leader in Boss Nass. I'm going with this thing.
No, Oda Gunga is gorgeous. I was thinking about that again today, and just like the great, I think, kind of choral music, but it just sounds so sort of mysterious and magical. And also just, you know, establishing a respect for the culture, right? Like they've got a culture, they've got rules. This is the first of 3 times where heroes stand before a council or a committee and get their path blocked, and we as the audience are kind of watching like, but we feel what needs to happen, we agree with our heroes what needs to happen, and some council going and yeah, Boss Nass doing it in an extremely flavorful, spitty way. One of my favorite line deliveries in all of Star Wars is the planet core. Like, I don't think George asked Brian Blessed, like, could you do it like a vampire on a record that's being played at the wrong speed? Could you deliver the line like that? Like, it's so great, so over the top. And rewatching it again this morning too, of like the lot of interesting things going on with Qui-Gon's mind trickery and how much it is or is not working on Boss Nass, of kind of working, but Boss Nass is also like kind of yes butting him of like, sure, I'll speed you on your way in the most dangerous way possible.
Yep. And I love the drawn out, if you draw the scene out to the end where they leave and Jar Jar and you know, the life death, you shouldn't have a life of play. Like, I love everything about it. And I love, you know, Jar Jar just kind of with the whole like, egads, what am Misa thinking? And the whole, I got a free ticket out of here. Let's go. I think there's some great Jar Jar humor there too. I know, controversial, Jar Jar being funny. But yeah, there you go. And I'd love to, you know, I've never supported a HasLab yet, but if they did the scene in a HasLab, I think
it's a hard one. It's a hard one technologically, I would imagine.
Yeah.
To put that all together. Yeah, it introduces important themes, and I think ultimately it is that kind of first moment where Jar Jar is sort of Obi-Wan is saying the symbiont circle is just like, hey, isn't everybody taught this in kindergarten? Come on. But then Qui-Gon is the one who puts it in action by, you know, actually helping Jar Jar.
Helping Jar Jar, indeed. All right, that is number 8. We're up to your number R7. You're second.
All right. I'm just going big. I'm going to put another scene that was roundly disliked by people our age for the most part when the film first came out, but one that's really speaking to me today, and that is the Senate debacle. The scene where we meet what the Senate looks like for the first time in Star Wars, the great design in the floating pods. And I should say that a lot of people, you know, disliked the amount of politics and thought, oh, this is boring. They're just standing around having meetings in a Star Wars movie. But a lot of people did like the design of the pods, in that it remains one of the like great designs that starts in the Phantom Menace and goes on. But the reason that it's really speaking to me today is I think the scene is powerful because it is a scene of Padme as Queen Amidala being very powerful, but also being so successfully manipulated by Palpatine. So the conflict, you know, of the scene is, you know, who's going to get what they want? Is Padme going to get immediate action, sensible, reasonable action on what's going on Naboo with the invasion, or is Palpatine going to get what he wants, which is to whisper in her ear and have her set in motion his takeover of the Senate. There's a lot of things that I love about it, and we've talked about a lot in terms of what makes the Phantom Menace interesting and not boring. We've talked about it for a long time now, of this idea of like, yeah, it's a corporation that has representation. It has a seat in a Senate. There is a senator from the Trade Federation. There's a senator from Amazon, Apple, Google, and they have political representation, and they can do what they want, like invade a sovereign nation because they don't want to pay taxes. So, we've talked about this for a long time, talked about it early on. Like, it's not boring. It's like, what if Amazon blocked Vermont and said, we don't want to pay taxes, and so we've invaded Vermont. And then when the governor of Vermont goes to the Congress and says, hey, I'm clearly obviously been invaded, the senator from Amazon goes, have you though? We should send a commission. And then, the president, who is maybe on the side of right, is like, no, that's ridiculous. We're not going to do that. And then somebody whispers in his ear, which is Masamita in this case. But, imagine, a vice president who knows where the all the bodies are buried and knows who's being paid by who and all that. It is just, it's such a picture of outrageous corruption in a sci-fi context. In the beats are well played. I think it's one of Natalie Portman's best scenes, with just this, like, would not be discussed in committee if this body is not capable. It's just really strong, really great. The literal whispering poison in her ear of Palpatine is great. Terrence Stamp's weary, defeated. You can't get anything done in this body. It's all fantastic. It's all a cautionary tale. And man, I hope this episode of our podcast is just a little blip in history, and people will be listening to it and going, what are you talking about? But it is exactly what is happening to my home state right now. It is under invasion from federal agents, and the general attitude in the mainstream media and in Washington is like, no, it's not. You got Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem and all those bastards out there saying what is obviously happening, a violent invasion, isn't happening. And in order for the government to do anything about it, it's too tied up in knots. So the people of Minnesota are forming a symbiote circle, like the Gungans in the Naboo. And again, not violently. They're not violently attacking, but they're bonding together to help one another, because the fear and the cautionary tale that Lucas put out of this is when fascism arises, when the government gets so stuck that it can't function, that it's not capable of making decisions in a time or fashion that is actually helpful to people in relatively immediate danger. And also, just this sort of this scene is about post-truth. It's about, like, we can play games about what's really happening on Naboo or not. And, like, I'm sure they're hollow reporters. I'm sure they've managed to get some video out, even though there's a communications disruption, right? It's just a denial of truth. Anyway, thank you. I will shorten other scene descriptions because I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this one.
No need. It's important. And I think for a long time now, I think Phantom Menace in particular has received some of its flowers for its politics, and that politics is boring in Star Wars thing has, it's I think always going to be present. But I think the view of this has changed. I think you've seen that with some of the sequel movies. Some of it's backhanded compliments. I don't like these movies, but I guess I'm not going to make fun of it anymore for saying fascism can return and return rapidly. We've seen that. I'll take that as a win, I guess. But Phantom Menace is pretty clear. And when we were talking about sitting before Boss Nass, and maybe you were focusing on all those other things and not the words being said, this is a great example of instead of rushing to some sort of collective judgment of boring politics in my stories, the story of rebellion versus an empire. Let's go back to the beginning here. Hear what's going on. It's we've said it many times. I'll say it again, but like one of our first ever conversations on a show in Jedi Alliance was you saying, "Hey, I don't know. It seems pretty important. If Amazon sent an army to Vermont, seems like that'd be have some weight to it. And I just had never thought of it that way, because I just don't think we're trained and to whatever you want to use the word trained for, but like we don't grow up watching media that way unless it's like, hey, this is political. It is all the president's men with Robert Redford. This is political.
How can it
The
be
rest is
political?
not.
Robert Redford isn't in it. How can it be political?
Yeah, exactly.
Very funny perspective from Gen X.
Yeah.
That's why everybody loves Winter Soldier and gets that it's political, because Robert Redford is in it. We get it.
Oh, this has political meanings. Yes. But this is a great scene, and it's a great scene just in terms of Star Wars establishing all the stuff that's going on, all the pieces put into place. But what you're describing is of great importance, and it does carry weight. And George has always been on about that. There, we can argue and playfully banter over the things that worked in the movie or didn't work in the movie or the prequels overall. And I get it. And I'll still watch some of it and be like, I would have done that differently. Oh, if only. Sure, great. I'm not interested in that anymore, right? Just when I have the conversations at bars that make me so angry, and I talk about them vaguely here on the show, is because you're not criticizing it with anything of importance. You're not criticizing it of anything that makes me interested in what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You're just repeating old YouTube videos from 10, 15 years ago. And not only are you not accounting for a prequel generation that was inspired, not just entertained, but we talk about the prequels the way we do here in this channel because we know, number one, they inspire us. Number one, we still learn from them. But there's an entire generation that was inspired to live their life better or inspired to chase their career goals because of these films. And it's because of moments like this. I absolutely love it. Love it as a great choice. Love it for the machinations of Palpatine. Love it for Terrence Stamp's Psy. I think that's one of my favorites. There's Akbar's Psy and there's Chancellor Finis Valorum's. We're screwed. And I agree. This is a moment where Padme always stands tall, but she's up against her greatest foe, and that's all. She is always going to be Palpatine's rival, and he gets a little bit of a win here in a way, but just the pain on her face while being ornately dressed and just in this iconic thing. It is full on Star Wars. I'm glad it exists. And yeah, not for nothing, those Senate pods, really cool, and happy to see them still at play in this other series that people like, because it doesn't have Robert Redford in it, but it does say it's about politics, Andor. But we have the Senate pods in there too. So fun all around, important all around. Mm-hmm. Great choice at number 7. All right, what have you done to me?
Sorry. Right. Yep.
Yeah,
if anybody's watching for the first time or listening for the first time, we don't discuss our choices ahead of time. So that's part of the tension here of not knowing how we're constructing the list as we go.
With this version of Rank that's been around for a bit now, but the original version, emails were exchanged. I'm going to discuss this. But this is a fun game. I really do like it. I'm going to go. There's a lot of great action in this film. We'll get to some sequences, but also we're talking about favorite scenes. And it's another person before a council. But I want to highlight what I believe is the excellent work of Jake Lloyd, and I think it's best on display in for me in this scene, which is Anakin Skywalker meets the Jedi Council.
Yeah,
ship speeder. I don't even know if I got that right anymore, but I used to have that on my phone because in the Schmodown I was like, one day they're going to ask me that question, and I never got
ship
it.
Speeder.
ship speeder. So obviously Anakin, this boy wonder, and Qui-Gon's got this theory, and we should note it's kind of just a theory. It's a hunch. He believes in it fully, but he's going back to kind of a stuffy Jedi Order and a stuffy Jedi Council with a wild claim. Later on in our own Star Wars lives, thanks to like Claudia Gray, we got some great stories about Jedi and the prophecies and all the stuff at this time in the Jedi Order. So there's all that kind of hanging over it. There's the defiance of Qui-Gon hanging over it. There's the dubious nature of Obi-Wan with these little sea urchins we're picking up along the way. And what are we doing here? And there is just the great moment of Jake Lloyd sitting in the pocket and delivering the line of "Cold, sir," and "I miss my mom, sir." And I'm trying to be nice here, but you're all kind of being pricks, man. and it does, it speaks to a lot of the stuff on the Jedi Order that the prequel set out to do, of this great organization, this great this great group of beings who aim to do the highest and best calling of their own life and go out in the galaxy and help. And it's not saying, as we've gone on over and over again, it's not saying the Jedi Order has to go, but just they've lost their way. And I think some of that's on display. I still think they got to do a test. Like a Qui-Gon says, you're this. All right, let's see. Guess what's on my screen, man? Like that all makes sense to me. But just Anakin met with the cold, almost indifference, sets us up for so many things. You see the simmering anger of Anakin is there, and it's President Jake Lloyd. But also he adds the angle, and I think it's there in the text of kind of righteous anger. Right, we're with him on this moment. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're young and watching this in '99. If you're 9 or 10, I gotta be. You're probably like, who the hell's this green dude in Mace? Like, what are they doing here? Where you and I were like Yoda and Sam Jackson, like, yay, So I love going back to the scene, and we've spoken before here on the contributions and performance of Jake Lloyd in this movie. There are so many wins for him as a performer, and everything else around it, and everything around the conversation at the time, and an awkward yippee, or now this is pod racing aside, which I still think is a fun line, by the way. Push past that and look at moments like this. Look at moments of when he really taps into it. And it makes me think of George Lucas in the doc, the beginning, where you're seeing kind of, Jake stumble over Coruscant, and George having the line of, I'm paraphrasing, but you might miss a mark. You might have to work to get it. But I think when you get it, there's some magic. And this is a magical moment for me. I think it's one of Jake Lloyd's finest moments as Anakin Skywalker. Love the scene, and I still love Yoda, and I still love Mace. I still love Ki-Adi-Mundi. I love just the plain flavor snow cone Ki-Adi-Mundi. Gotcha. But I love everything going on in the scene, and I like to revisit it. So Anakin meets the Jedi Council.
I'm thrilled that you picked this one because it was on my list, and it frees up a different one I can put on my list. But I agree. All the Jedi Council scenes are fascinating, but I think this one is my favorite. It is one I bounced off in 1999 because I wanted the Jedi to be kinder, and it's one of those ones where I just sort of that wasn't the way I thought it would be, and so it is bad. And this is one of my sort of scenes where I came around to I should just really pay attention to the actual movie, and why is it the way that it is. And I think this is a scene where it's an emotionally complex scene because on one hand, the Jedi's concerns are true, and they bear out to be true, that the path that Yoda describes in his famous line is exactly how people fall. It is how Anakin falls. It is how the entire Republic falls. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. But did it have to play out that way? So on one hand, they're right, but on the other hand, it is a council of assholes grilling a child. And if the child feels cold, perhaps it is because you're treating him like crap. Wise counsel of. So there is this sort of emotional push-pull, and in '99 you just want the Jedi to be heroes, and I think it's an interesting conversation of I think Lucas so took it as, hey, everybody understands the Jedi are the heroes, right? And so now I'm going to show you a story where our hero Jedi, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, are generally making the right choices, but overall the Jedi Order has kind of lost its way. You guys all get that, right? And I think a lot of people receive that as oh, the Jedis are assholes. They were born assholes. They've always been assholes. Luke is the exception. And I think I had that. What are we doing? But I think what is fascinating to me is it is a portrait of when the Jedi Council has lost its way. They have a hard time making decisions and taking action. And more than anything, Yoda's wisdom is correct, but the Jedi Council is also on the path of fear. I often think of Star Wars is about hope versus fear. And when you're in a present moment trying to make a hard decision about a hard situation, do you imagine the future with possibility, with hope, or do you imagine it with fear, certain that the worst outcome is going to happen? And Qui-Gon he says later in the movie, the boy's future is uncertain, but he's looking at it with hope but he has this possibility, and there is this possibility of great hope with him. And the Jedi Council are only looking at it with fear, and they reflect that back on this poor child who needs some warmth and empathy in that moment. And I think I know there's different storytelling. I think Yoda's been having a real bad day before the events of the Phantom Menace, and isn't just in a terrible mood, because I think Yoda often would have said the same things, but also realized
Mhm.
this child has been through a lot in his life, and he's separated from his mother, and he's in a strange place, being judged by a group of strangers who surround him in a circle. He needs a little bit of kindness and gentleness and empathy in the way we communicate to him. And I think it is a tragedy scene in lots of ways.
It is, and in terms of stuff of Mace, like over the years, I've been one of the folks who's kind of said like Mace was right about a lot of things, and you'd always had a wonderful tag to that of yeah he might be, but how Mace reacts to that is kind of the problem, because he's kind of emblematic of the Jedi Order, and you mentioned it here, fear. There's also a lack of trust. So in this moment, I think there's a lack of trust for Qui-Gon. There's some history there. There's some tension around the break room.
You're right. I mean, the thing is like Qui-Gon. Oh, Qui-Gon's the one who's in the middle of this mess. Yeah, in the earlier scene where he's like, it is all about annoyance with Qui-Gon. I'm like, more to say, have you revealed your opinion? Is that those are like
it's so good.
Those are old dudes who fight at the cafe every morning, right? And a familiar old fighter, like, here we go, Qui-Gon, here we go again.
It's like when I was an intern at the radio station that first hired me, the morning show hosts were good friends who had gotten to the point where they hated each other. And so they'd be on air and then off air and they'd start screaming at each other. And it's exactly like, the revealed? Has your opinion on the sports segment been it's just like, revealed on too many Bruce Springsteen songs? Has your opinion? Like, so I love that. So a lot going on here. And again, at the end of the day, cold sir, Jake Lloyd nails it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Phenomenal acting moment for young Master Lloyd.
There you go. All right. Pressure's a little off you. This is one of your choices, but we're going to our number 5, your next pick.
Yeah, I'm going weird. I don't think this is ever what I would have initially said, like, yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes, but I just kind of spot rewatching this morning, and this is another scene that I think is maybe underappreciated, at least by our generation. And it is on the after they leave Tatooine on the flight back to Coruscant, the Anakin and Padme bonding moment with the Japor snippet necklace. I think it is a really good acting scene for both Natalie Portman and Jake Lloyd. I think there are a couple of scenes. There are many scenes throughout Phantom Menace where our connection to one another, what happens to one of us happens to all of us. Empathy is needed, is very good. This is such an empathetic scene, and I think sometimes people bounce against it, or certainly our generation bounced against it, because we know the future of these characters, and we know that eventually this will be a romance, and I think that it is another example of George Lucas kind of pulling in a couple different directions. He wants these characters to meet young, and form a bond, an emotional bond, but he wants Padme to be old enough to be a very young ruler, but still a ruler of Naboo, and he wants Anakin to be young enough to be innocent. So he makes this kind of strange age gap between them, and I think a lot of people can just put blinders on this scene and just go no, because I feel like they're watching a meet cute between a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I get that, but I don't think it is a romantic scene. I think it is entirely a scene of people who've been around each other, interacted, having a moment alone, in a moment of just kindness and empathy and understanding literally where the other person is from, because that's what the conversation is. She brings him the blanket, and he talks about being cold, and the fact that he is from a very warm planet, and an acknowledgement of, here's what you're feeling now and why, because of where you are from. You just left your mother. You miss her. You're literally physically cold because of where you're from. I'm listening to you, hearing you, and understanding who you are because of all of your life situation. And Anakin kindly inquires about her, and she talks about the Queen obviously we know it's her, is worried because her people are suffering, dying. They're both these young people in a vulnerable place of, fear and loneliness and the unknown right around the corner, just being kind to one another. She brings him the blanket and assures him that their paths will go different ways, but she'll always care for him. Um, he gives her the necklace to remember him by. It's a bittersweet scene that they're never going to see each other again. Uh, but this, great moment of kindness. And I think in the analysis of, why is Padme ultimately attracted to him? Why did she help him, even despite the sort of the awfulness of killing uh,
Mm.
the whole Tuscan village and admitting to it? Like, this is how this person lives in her mind, is this kind, brave, frightened person who misses his mother. Um, so I think it's an underappreciated scene for what it really is, because I think a lot of people watch it through a lens of what it is not.
Yeah, 100% agree, and I can understand it, but it's like you said, it just was. We all knew, we all could pull it out, and so you're just going to apply some ick to it that isn't intended, which doesn't mean sometimes things intended one way don't kind of have the effect, but it is a building block scene. It is removed of the romance, removed of all that. It is two human beings seeing each other for maybe who they are in this moment, and that would naturally translate there. Again, in a film that is loud and I mean that in a wonderful way, but loud, over the top, and boss Nasses and Gungans and pods and ships and everything. You and I keep choosing these very quiet moments, and I think that's telling of what's at the core of this film. It is heart, it is connection, the symbiotic circle that you mentioned there too. And it is the opposite. This is a great tag to the scene before and I'm not even worried about where they are in the timeline of the movie, but you got the cold indifference. I'm cold, guys. Hey, anyone, cold,
Yeah.
afraid, lonely. And you got Padme, a character we absolutely love here, of recognizing and being able to see what people need. And making the connections along the way. That is such a trait of Padme, and not for nothing, a little Japor snippet. It's a good Star Wars prop.
Yeah,
something I'd get at a convention and maybe wear.
Yeah,
maybe not. But
yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's a romantic scene, but sure, Anakin has a crush on the older lady. But I mean, the older teen.
Oh, it's realistic. My first crush was whoever portrayed Snow White at Disneyland in 1982. Okay, I saw the parade and it was like, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling something.
Yes.
Right? Because I don't know. Also, that stuff develops pretty early. Who you are and who you seek is pretty early, and I think that's part of it too. And I'm not afraid to run up against that. I'm not afraid because I don't think George was stepping over here. I think he was being realistic from Anakin's perspective.
Yeah, and it makes sense that he would obsess on and imprint on. When I left home, who was one of the first people I met, this woman who is kind to me and brave and took things into her own hand and did what was right. And you look at a lot of Anakin's choices and behavior in Attack the Clones and in the Clone Wars in particular, where he's just sort of like, no, I'm going to do what's right and I'm going to help other people and I don't leave a clone behind. And if the Jedi Council tells me to not go look for my Padawan, I'm not really going to listen. Like, how much of that did he learn from watching Padme in The Phantom Menace?
Yeah, I agree. I love it. The Japor snippet of it all. Seeing there, we're well in the top 4. Or we're top 5. Gosh, I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let you down, Joseph. I've got some ones here that I want to pick, and I'm just gonna get one of them out there, and this is. Jar Jar and the Queen. We've spoken about it here. I had a little video out a long time ago, but Jar Jar and the Queen. This is the famous, I will say famous, some people would say infamous, but I would say you're wrong. It is the famous, used to said people are going to die scene. This leads to another one of my favorite scenes that maybe we talk about, maybe we don't, I don't know. But this little moment is, again, this quiet, intimate, connected moment between two characters that have been on kind of this wild, crazy, dangerous adventure in this film. This is everything to me about what Jar Jar represents. When people out in the wild are like, "Do you really like Jar Jar?" There's a lot of reasons I do. A lot of it have to do with Ahmed Best, who I'm so thankful for being in Star Wars and back in the fold in a great way. But this is when I say Jar Jar is this great Star Wars theme of everyone has a place in the story. And this is Jar Jar kind of realizing it. He's always going to bumble. I drop things too, okay? I'm clumsy too. Jar Jar's always going to bumble. He's always going to step on things a little bit. And yeah, we know what he does in Attack of Clones and all that stuff, but that's, that's all part of the character and the fun of and the trials of loving Jar Jar as a character. But in this moment, I love that Jar Jar steps into his power. He steps into himself. He steps into what his people are. We've met his people, and we know it's been established back in the Boss Nass scene. I mean, Naboo historically maybe treated the Gungans pretty bad. And you can get into the weeds on the history of it there. Well, who did? Yeah, I got it. But at the end of the day, Naboo did things pretty bad. And Jar Jar says, despite all that, we are proud people. We're proud warriors, and we will fight. And I trust my people. I trust if they see it, and it puts the ideas in what's always already working in Padme of again seeing what people need, and being bold in facing that with truth. The bowing before Boss Nass is about an acknowledgement of the pain, acknowledging of the mistakes. And even though I wasn't around for it, I'm here for us going forward, and this is the best way to know how. And it all comes from her kind of having them having this connection, them having this moment, and her. I think it's not that she doesn't know what to do; she's lost, but just like what is the best way forward? What is the best way forward? And this kind of crazy. What other pathetic life form did we find? Kind of thing, the way he's viewed. This is the moment, and it's delivered. And talk about great performances. It's delivered wonderfully by Ahmed Best. I would say his best moments. It is calm. It is quiet. It is strong. I love it. Jar Jar and the Queen. I'll link to more words I've said on it, but it's more of the same. My number 4, our number 4 choice there.
No, I agree. I think it is one of the things in Phantom Menace, this sort of a chain of connection and empathy. It relates back to a nice scene that that maybe you'll make the list, maybe it won't. But Padme's cleaning R2 and on the ship and says, "You're a Gungan, aren't you?" And he tells her very honestly about his day and how he just kind of Jedi grabbed me, and then I found myself here, and now I'm find myself on Coruscant just because kind of bumbled my way here. But it is a chain of kindness that leads him to that moment of being there to empathize with her about her plight that is actually his plight too. Is pretty great. And I have fond memories of the use of people gonna die was in the trailer. And I've talked before about working at Kinko's in Minneapolis at the time, and my manager was a huge Star Wars fan, and we all gathered around his computer to slowly download the trailer and take turns going into the manager's office, which like normally you didn't go into Christoph's office, but something went wrong, something went really wrong, and some job got really messed up, and everybody kept saying to Christoph, "Use of people gonna get fired?" And that was before the film even came out. It was just the trailer.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's part of it too. That's part of the scene. And when I say infamous versus famous, depending on when you look at it, like, I don't have any hot takes dramatically in either direction of the South Park guys. I watched the show. I saw the movies. I love their Black Friday run. It's the best example of what it's like to be in private security at a mall during Black Friday. And this past season, I think they did some important satire work. But I don't have they created all the nihilism, and I also think they run away from some of what they do. All right, so there you go. But this is one of the examples of where I kind of would get grumpy is they put that, I think Chef says it in the South Park movie, and they kind of said, I don't know, we saw it in the trailer, and we put it in. And they tapped into it. And then that just marked the scene for the rest of its existence. And that just marked its scene by people we know and love who are just like, oh, yeah, Jar Jar said stupid things like that or silly things that we can mock. And I always get a little grumpy about that, where it's just like, now I love this scene. It's deep. It's deep. It's painful. It's facing truths of of their cultures, and it's coming against all the things. It's themes of the movie that I just explained, but that's why I think over the years I admit I get a little more defensive of Star Wars than I would have in the past because I love poking fun too because I love it so much, right? I love little lines here. I love using them. As you said, I would have used that if I was at that Kinko's too. Love that, but I don't like it when the poignancy is undercut by the swipes at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's a well shot scene in a well lit scene. It's really got some heaviness to it.
Yeah. All right, pressure's on you. You got two more choices though. We're up to number 3.
Ooh, I'm just going wild and just being honest. I know there's maybe some bigger scenes that we haven't got to, but for number 3, just going to be honest. This is one that I have always loved and continue to love. It is a short scene, but an important scene. It is at the end of the film when Yoda and Obi-Wan are discussing Anakin's training. Again, just watching the film, it has a reputation for being so bouncy, but so many of the scenes are bittersweet or have a sense of underlying tension and doom, and they're lit that way. And this one's lit beautifully, and it always has been. Of that sort of, it feels like a meeting that should be happening on Coruscant, at the Jedi Temple with a whole ass ceremony, right? But it's just sort of like we are in crisis and we need to make decisions. And in a film where there are consequences for people being slow in their decision making, it's got this great energy of Yoda and Obi-Wan just hashing out like, we can't leave this boy hanging. And normally it'd be a whole ceremony for you, for Obi-Wan to go through the Jedi trials. But sometimes a trial is simply life, destiny, fate puts one before you. So it starts with, we're elevating you to a Jedi Knight. Again, if you just watch the film, it is what it is. But if you want more of the lore, it's a big deal that they're just like, in a back room on Naboo, we elevated you to a Jedi Knight. But I think the importance of me to the scene is the again, in a film where lots of people are criticized for being slow to make decisions, Obi-Wan being like, I'm going to train him whether you agree or not, so the council can make a decision and help me train him, is a really great moment. And the Yoda turning, whether he's a puppet or CGI, and saying, the council agrees, your apprentice Skywalker will be like, as I think a fan who saw it in 1999 who grew up with the original trilogy, that had such weight. And I think if you're just watching it for the first time and this is the Skywalker saga, and the weight of that is really cool and really important. I just like sort of the weight of it and the gravitas, and how much that scene, your mind can return to as Kenobi wrestles with, should I have let someone else train him? Was I too insistent? That scene tracks through to, the storytelling of Ahsoka season 1, where Ahsoka is wrestling with, you come from this long progeny of master and apprentice chain of Jedi who don't always follow the rules, and sometimes that is what makes them great, and sometimes that is what causes folly and problems. Is Ahsoka thinking of the stories she heard about this moment and going, am I doing that with Sabine? Am I making the wrong choice? So it's a fun, beautifully lit, heavy scene that also just kind of explodes out in all sorts of directions for the saga itself.
Agreed. And you can pull again a lot of emotional canon from it. I think one of my favorite things is we sometimes refer to maybe mostly me. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but Obi-Wan kind of being the poster child for what a Jedi might be. He's on the recruitment ads in my mind. But that kind of, even saying that can lend you can maybe make you think of, he's always in line. He always follows the rules and all those kind of things. And and that's not always true. And he's makes a lot of decisions that are right, that are outside the paper of the rule book. And this is one of them. And I love that you're highlighting. You know what? I'm making this decision. This is what I want to do. This is what Qui-Gon asked. And there's a lot of complications to that. This is the duel of the fates of it all. And this is, father figure versus you or my brother, Anakin, all those kind of things. But that's why I love the scene. he makes a choice, and I love you invoking the it's Huang that's saying that to Ahsoka, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the lineage, and when I hear that, hey, you come from a long line of kind of rebellious Jedi. I'm putting tone into Huang's words that aren't necessarily there, but just for me, it isn't just simply that. That's part of the fun, but it's just like you come from a line of individuals who know who they want to be, and that doesn't always mean it's going to be perfect, and that could mean it's very dangerous. Anakin's an ultimate example of how dangerous that can be, but you should always be authentic. You should always be yourself. And I think Ahsoka's a great example of that. But going back to this moment, Obi-Wan has his cool. I got the promotion I wanted, but this is really what I want to do, whether you like it or not. Yeah, we agree. You got the kid. You got the kid. But I think it's a great Obi-Wan moment.
It's a great Obi-Wan moment, and it is a great clarity that Obi-Wan is going to follow through on his promise to Qui-Gon, which creates some nice tension in his relationship with Anakin. Of
Yep.
Does Anakin feel wanted and loved, or is this guy just this guy who just graduated college and immediately adopted a 9-year-old child, setting himself up for a little bit of an awkward time?
Absolutely. All right, great choice at number 3. My final choice of the day. All right. There's that. There's that. There's rats. Tyrell dying. What do we got? I'm gonna go to one of my favorite scenes. We love this character here around these parts. I don't know. Maybe I'm swiping one from you, but it is Shmi Skywalker saying goodbye to Anakin.
Nice.
God bless it. In the trailer moment that got me. The trailer moment of "Will I ever see you again?" What does your heart tell you? I could never lie to anyone that I didn't have kind of a gulp in my throat from the trailer seeing it, because oh man, you know what's going to happen. But it is we talked earlier about Shmi being a great mother, right? And how in a Star Wars saga that is often too short on mothers and mothers surviving, and later on, that's key to Anakin's journey. But in this moment, she absolutely shines. Pernilla August finds this strength, and you said it earlier, putting aside fear. This is no easy task. This is sword in the stone stuff, right? This is the beginning of the hero's journey, and we kind of can look at it from a distance through the eyes of myth, like and then he gets this, and he wins a pod race, and then he's taken off to be a Jedi, and we're on our adventure. But this is Shmi's moment for me. This is Shmi who removes her own desires, egos, overcomes her fears, finds great strength, provides him strength in the moment. We feel the connection, and it's so quiet. And Qui-Gon knows it. I love that Qui-Gon's off there. He's not, all the logistics are handled earlier. Like, here's a pamphlet on, you can't contact him, but here's what's going on. Pack this. There's all those kind of things. And I just love the kind of, pulled back shot of her watching him leave, and her arms kind of crossed, and we know she goes on experiences some joy in life, which provides me comfort as a fan, even though her end is tragic. I think she goes on to do some good deeds too, as we learn in some of the E.K. Johnston novels, and kind of trying to undo the slave network. So this is a great character in Star Wars, but this is I think truly her biggest moment, and it is part of why, if I'm feeling the need for Star Wars, I do want to zoom. I do want a lightsaber fight. I do want that reveal. Talk about favorite moments, Darth Maul, love it. But I come back for these kind of moments. These are the moments of depth. These are the moments of poignancy. And if you're again, young kid watching this in 1999, how heartbreaking is this scene? How it's not just simply pack your bag, kid. We're going to save the day. This is about the choices. This is about the sacrifice. It's big, heavy lessons for George. I'm glad this scene is in it. And I'm glad, for the most part, I believe it's from her point of view. So that's my final moment. Our second choice here is Shmi says goodbye.
No, I think this is a great pick. I think it is like you said, it's part of the mythic storytelling of even when the hero accepts the call to adventure, they have to leave home. They have to leave the comforts of home. And that is in some ways the first challenge. And Luke has there's nothing left for me here. Anakin has it much harder in that there is a lot left for him there. And I think Shmi hands out lots and lots of wisdom that is bittersweet and painful to hear in Phantom Menace, because it's all the things that Anakin didn't listen to and let his fears overcome
Right.
that wisdom.
Yep.
But I love that this scene is about Shmi's pain and acceptance, but it is these great, morsels of wisdom of, what does your heart tell you? Of listen to your instincts in your gut and your feelings instead of having anxiety about the future. Anakin wants a definitive answer. Will I see you again? And neither of them really know that, but they can listen to their instincts and their gut. Which I think sometimes the Force is just a metaphor for just calm down and listen to your instincts and what do you feel and how much control do you have over the future and or not. But the don't look back is so great to give her child, which it's good wisdom in general of like, don't be too obsessed with the past. But also just giving her child what he needs in order to move forward of like, you need to be thinking about your future. It's going to be harder if you're always looking back at me. Don't look back. Yeah. It's really beautiful.
It is. Thank you, Shmi Skywalker. Pernell August. Excellent in the role there. All right, but here we go. Our big number one choice falls on your shoulders. What do we have today? And our favorite scenes from The Phantom Menace.
Well, this is probably not going to be a surprise. I was really interested to see how this would play out. You and I mostly picked emotional scenes, acting scenes. And I think sometimes when we think of scenes, it is these characters have this momentous conversation, this quiet, intimate conversation. But, action scenes can be scenes too. So I'm going with what is honestly my favorite scene in Star Wars. That is a phenomenal action scene. And I think also has a lot to say. And that is Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul lightsaber fight. Many, many great moments throughout the lightsaber fight. But I'm combining the two scenes from Kenobi jumping up and down at the laser gate with his just anxiousness to get at Maul and defeat him, to the defeat of Maul with him tumbling, split in half down the shaft. I've talked about it a lot, so I can keep it shorter. I love the speed. I love the way it's shot. I love the way it's edited. I love the way it's clear that they both know the Jedi arts and they are trying forms and moves on one another, looking for openings. And Kenobi starts aggressive and he thinks he's winning and he keeps charging and charging. And it's choreographed that way. It's shot that way. It's edited that way to have a feeling of Kenobi charging at Maul. He charges him this way. Then he charges him back this way. And he keeps thinking his aggression is going to get him win. He charges, and just leaves himself. His aggression leaves himself open. Almost pays the ultimate price when Maul pushes him. In that moment of sort of, I think it is a moment of Kenobi in some ways becoming Kenobi of like, calm down, think through the situation, think of everything that's around you, and think more broadly than the people you are facing who are laser focused on their objective and the thing that's in front of them to the point where they're not aware of the entire situation, not aware of their entire environment. Slowing down, remembering my master's fallen blade is right there. And then doing the flip and the cut. And to top it all off, this sort of the horror of watching this demon character who's really scary, defeated, fallen, split in half, eyes wide, as though he seems to be aware that the two separate halves of his bodies are bouncing off the wall as he falls into a pit, and knowing, yeah, that guy's gonna live through that. Makes it
what's worse
brutal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how often do you like sitting around like, I mean, it hurt when he cut me in half. It really made me feel stupid when the upper half of my body smashed against the wall on the way down the pit. That's the part that I can't live with, says Maul.
Man, I want, I hope in Maul Shadow Lord there's a scene where Maul's explaining this and he's like, the worst part was living. Like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love this moment. I think this is the answer. You could maybe even go the entire sequence and Qui-Gon's noble end. And look, hey, I don't know if a lot of people are this, but for the most part, Qui-Gon's kind of the main character in this story, right? He's kind of the one leading us through it, and his passing leads to so many things that has been well documented here and in other spots about the Duel of the Fates and what hangs in the balance for Anakin. But just in terms of a fight, just in terms of lessons in character moments in the fights, you've talked here and other times of our podcast of what's available for us in terms of lessons from Obi-Wan's, both near defeat and victory here. And also, and talking about the Boss Nass scene earlier, just talking about like cool Star Wars designs. There's been a lot of, praise over the years over the design team on Phantom Menace, Doug Chiang and everyone there. I love how just kind of, again, over the top this entire sequence is in terms of like the energy shields. And over the years, you could find some, snarky improver on like College Humor or something going, why were the energies? What are those there? There's that kind of punditry that's been around for years. And my answer has always been, who cares? It's awesome. It's this thing, and it's such a George going, hey, here's what's at stake in the fight. Here's what people have got to learn in the fight. And here's how we can make that happen. And the people behind it, designers and concept artists and everyone going, yeah, okay, well, how do we make this a visual scene more than just what's at stake or what's being said? As George always says, if you turn the sound down, you're gonna still get the film. And I think just in terms of that, it's a victory for me of just how it looks and how mysterious it is and how it's in the depths of this wonderful, beautiful city, but it's so cold and confining. Love everything about the design too. And it's just a great fight that I've come to appreciate more over the years when I was a little bit more of like, and we've talked about it before, of course, but a little more choreographed and everything. That's not true for me anymore. Not at all.
It's so good. Come on. Blocking behind the back on a double-bladed lightsaber. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Indeed.
That's Kenobi.
Indeed. And that's another Haslabite support. Just the energy shields that move and close.
With real lasers. Keep your fingers out of there. Yeah.
Qui-Gon with a wound. A figure with a wound there.
Yeah. I don't know if they've made a Qui-Gon's Noble End, the 3 3/4. I'm sure people have with just a simple marker.
Yeah. I take that.
Hole there. Yeah.
Funko can release the decapitated Ned Stark. We can do a Qui-Gon with a Noble End wound there. Anyway,
I was real tempted to include the waiting at the laser gate when Qui-Gon kneels and Maul paces, but that feels more like a moment than a scene to me. So that does, but honorable mention to waiting at the laser gate.
Honorable mention indeed. Some also that are on my list. I mentioned earlier the Gungans emerge in the battle. That's not a scene. It's a moment. But come on. I'd say the entire Battle of Naboo is its own thing. I mentioned Rats Tyrell down. You and I didn't go into pod racing because that's just, we could almost do an episode on favorite moments within the pod race. And maybe one day we will. But when I was putting down the list, I was just like, again, that's not a scene, but I was just, it's not a scene, but it is a play. The tragedy of Rats Tyrell, if you take all the cuts of his family and everything into it. That was some of the stuff on my list. I also put the first Maul fight in there as an honorable mention.
Yeah, an honorable mention for me was, Qui-Gon jumping back on the ship and Obi-Wan and Anakin meeting for the first time. It's got a lot in it. For me, it was a toss-up between the Senate scene and the scene back in Palpatine's office of you could call for a vote of no confidence, and when Pat surprises him by announcing, nah, I'm going back to deal with this stuff myself. That was up there. And then for just pure comedy, Anakin says goodbye to 3PO, which it has the unique, there's not a ton of point of view shots in Star Wars, but it's entirely 3PO's point of view as he is callously left by his master. Like, is that the moment where 3PO got all of his anxiety when his master just kind of didn't give a bleep about him?
Yeah.
Make sure she doesn't sell you. Bye.
Bye. Love that there. Love that. Yeah, I was gonna the Padme returns to her arena scene is a long one of my favorites, and I still will go into the weeds on it. Is a rare moment of defeat for Palpatine, which doesn't mean it lasts more than a second, or that he doesn't have contingency plans, or that he's not always trying to be the Phantom Menace. But I've always taken, Ian McDiarmid playing that scene as, you'll do what? Like. And then maybe he spins it quickly in his head, but it sets up in a lot of ways. I mean, it's set up from the beginning, but that's why I often say Padme is Palpatine's greatest rival, and that's why he needs her out. And I think the Clone Wars later on, that one episode, I forget which one, maybe you remember it, with Palpatine just spinning and looking out his window and being like, Padme did it again. Like that just kind of adds credence to that. This is one of the first big moments where he's like, wait, no, I had this all. Oh, okay. Oh, no, I can spin this into something good for me. But it's Padme's strength that causes that.
Yeah, I think it's explicit in the film that he underestimates her. He literally says
Yes.
she's young and naive and she'll be easy to control. And then he's like,
Mm-hmm.
this move is too aggressive. Yeah, and I think he wants her on. He either wants her on Coruscant, or he wants her dead. I think he wants the crisis to continue, and I think he's lied to the Trade Federation that she'll sign a treaty. I don't think he gives a crap about the treaty. I think he just wants the crisis to continue, and she keeps thwarting him by finding ways to resolve the crisis. But he pulls out a win, gets elected.
You tell me some leaders don't hold to constitutions and laws and things that are established.
It does appear to happen sometimes.
Okay. Interesting that you think Star Wars is political. Okay. No, that is our big list. R2 saves the day. Dinner at Shmi's, which sounds like a great sitcom. We meet Boss Nass, Ascended debacle. Anakin meets the council. The Japor snippet scene. Padme, Jar Jar and the Queen. Yoda and Anakin. Yoda and Obi-Wan determine Anakin's future. There, Shmi says goodbye. And Obi-Wan versus Maul. That is our list. But as always, we want to know, what is your list? What are your favorite scenes in The Phantom Menace? List them down below if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know on Blue Sky. You can find us at ForceCenter Pod there as well. I want to hear from all generations, but man, we love hearing from the prequel generation that grew up with this, that found this film at the right time in their lives to let it inspire and move and entertain them forever, without any doubt, with always full conviction. We appreciate you. You can support us directly on Patreon at patreon.com/ForceCenter. You can get some merch. Links down below for that. Our Fourth Wall and TeePublic shop. Don't forget the audio feed. Catch that, because on Sundays we rebroadcast Databank Brawl. That's often where we will take characters that we love and pit them together in a horrible, violent, horrendous, but always fun fight. And follow me at Cadnapsock, or check out my show, The Blathering Live. Patreon, support me at patreon.com/Cadnapsock if you want to do that. Joseph, where can they find and follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media at Joseph Scrimshaw is my handle. You can visit my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for updates on all the stuff I'm up to. I'm in the midst of building a website for the horror film I wrote and directed called Dead Media that I'm working to get out in the world as we speak. So links to all that on my website.
And as always, Jennifer Landis says hello, and we'll try to return to the show as soon as she can. You can check links down below if you're watching on YouTube where to find and follow her. That's it. We'll see you next time. Star Wars has been ranked.